Ben, welcome. And we're going to be taking questions from the audience, guys. So I'm sure you guys have got questions for the speakers, and some of the stuff we've discussed today, you're going to want to dig into a little bit deeper. So look to the right of your screen, and you'll see the chat. If you can be filtering your questions in there, I'll ask them to the speakers as we go. But I think I'll kick off to start with. So thank you for everyone today. I think it's been absolutely incredible. A question from me would be, what's a really actionable tip that a sales rep could take and implement today that's going to have an impact on their performance? What's something that we could take away today? What's one thing that you guys are doing that you think if everybody implemented, it would make their life easier, get to quota quicker, essentially improve their performance? Any takers?
I'll start with a really simple thing that makes a dramatic difference, which is calendar blocking. Just simple structures, such as, I don't know, 8 to 10 prospecting, saving your meetings for the afternoon, prep, etc. That's simple. I don't think enough people do that. But being strict as well. It's easy to say you do that, but be strict as well. For me personally, makes a big difference.
Amazing.
Really simple.
Big advocate of it. I live by it, Ben. So yeah, completely hear that. Any other top tips, guys?
I think.
Go on.
Well, no, go on, John. Go for it, man.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So yeah, I think the key one for me is I always found that the people that really get the ball rolling very, very quickly, like always spend time just with your high performers. So identify who the high performers are in the team and literally try and join as many of their calls as possible. If you've got access to great technology like Gong or Chorus, like they're just amazing resources for you to just tap in and identify like how people are dealing with typical objections that you face. And I would be a massive advocate of, yeah, just really delving in, getting access to high performers and emulating exactly what they do.
Excellent. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Over to Ravi.
I was going to say something around, when I was in sales leadership, we would always think about, okay, what's the next tool to supercharge our sales? What can we do with this? What can we do with that? But actually, something as simple as a video DM to a prospect is the thing that can build connection quicker, build rapport, and it will collapse time in your sales cycle. Because like we said, during the storytelling piece, people really connect with other people's stories. And the amount of times where you see people who are connecting with the same old text on LinkedIn, and that's not a problem, but if you could do a voice note or a video DM, if you are comfortable in doing so, it can really differentiate you. Super simple, but if you can send 5 today, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I couldn't agree more. I think video is changing the game, and I think you're right, Ravi. At the moment, completely underutilized. I mean, I see every day on LinkedIn, we need to cut through the noise and make our approach different. That's one actionable way you can do that today. Nobody's doing it. I get approached and pitched on a weekly basis. I can't remember the last time I received a video outreach, so that will give you an idea, guys. Loretta, I don't know if you do have anything to add on that.
Yes, I do. So again, I'm all about the simple things that make my life easier. So I mentioned I do a lot of voice recording for myself, but another thing that I do is I set a hell of a lot of alarms for absolutely everything. So if it's a case of contacting prospects and I need to reach back out, I have specific amount of timing. I know we say you have to contact them a certain amount of times, but I do like to leave a little bit more time, but I make them more meaningful. But I set alarms for absolutely everything. So whether it's I need to make a call and I know morning is better than afternoon, I am doing 100 things at once and I can be forgetful. So I set alarms for everything just to make sure that I'm hitting the right people at the right time. And I found it's been quite successful. So yeah, I recommend it.
Amazing. I love your I love that you're always going back to basics, Loretta. And I think
keep it simple. Yeah.
100%. And I think for me, I have to have a word with myself sometimes when things aren't going my way, and I really have to come back to basics and say, okay, let's get the foundations there again, and
absolutely.
And there. So it's something I should probably implement more. But I find myself going back to it when I'm not performing at my peak. But yeah, I'd like to implement that in my day to day. Thanks to all the viewers that are sending questions in. I will come to them now. First one that I can see from Finn. Thank you, Finn. And it's directed for John, actually. Sorry to put you on the spot, John. When you spoke about performance, what things do you measure in addition to closing deals?
Okay. Yeah, so I think performance, it depends really what your role is, right? If you're an account executive, there's so many different elements to it. And for me, I'm very metrics driven. So performance for me is tangible. You can actually see the results. So it might be your opportunity to close rate. It might be your initial discovery to accepted opportunity. Like for me, it's all in the granular details. And if you track this on a monthly basis, and for me, what I do for my team is I define all the core KPIs. So at the beginning of the month, I say, okay, as a manager, my expectation is I will provide you with 50 demonstrations. From those 50 demonstrations, you need to get X amount of opportunities. And then from those opportunities, you'll get X amount of close. So for me, it's really easy to visualize from a performance level, like where the gap is. And it really doesn't come down to just that end revenue number. Like some months you might have more demos than other members of the team. And the expectation there is that you will close more revenue because you're getting more demos. So I think you really need to get into the details and look at like the input that's going in, and then that will translate to the output. And from like a AE perspective, like if you're looking to go into management, performance could be a number of things, right? It could be based on, if you're a senior member of the team, the expectation that you onboard new people, that you spend time and you lead collaborative efforts across different departments. Like it's really showing that initiative. I think that's what I would say, Alex.
Excellent, mate. I'd completely agree. Your mindset on that's very, very much aligned with mine in terms of the numbers and it being very tangible and achievable. So thank you for that. Does anybody else want to chip in on that question? Or I think I've got quite a nice one from Louise that I'm really, really keen to hear as well. Ben, from your book.
Sorry, Karen.
I've got a question from Louise from you, buddy. From your book, whose story most inspired you? We know you spoke to sort of 50 of the world's leading sales and rev leaders. So I'm just keen to find out whose story most inspired you.
That's such a hard question. I've been thinking about this the whole time when I read that. So thank you, Louise. It's kind of like, in a very minor way, asking a parent which is their favorite child, like in the most basic sense. There are some really quite amazing ones. The one that's instantly struck me is one of the 17 who made it in the book, a gentleman called Jefferson Mangus from Texas. His story is just amazing of how he started his sales career with chasing storms around the countries where they had these tropical storms for insurance claims on damaged roofs, walking onto gardens greeted with shotguns and many stories like that, to then making it to New York City, to barely being able to afford an apartment with his girlfriend, having to live with a family, working in the dodgy neighborhoods, selling all sorts of things, such as his key one was workers' uniforms, then eventually getting to the Manhattan building selling coffee, and he grinded his way up to eventually making it to a company like LinkedIn, and now a company like Gong. He's absolutely killed it. So his story really inspired me, because here's someone who started from like the complete rough and going the way up, and it's a great story to listen to, right? And Jeff's is also an amazing guy. So there are some really good stories, but that's the one that struck me the most.
Amazing. I could listen to those all day.
It was fun.
I guess I need to buy the book, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing, Ben. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that wouldn't find that fascinating to hear how these people have navigated their careers, and you know, just even hearing that short piece from you, you know, I'm hooked. I'm going to buy the book. So thank you.
Cheers, Alex.
Actually, skip a question. Sorry, Cameron. Directed at John again. Have we lost John? Yeah, we lost John.
Yeah.
So I've actually got one for Ravi. Ravi, when storytelling, presenting virtually, would you recommend standing rather than sitting?
I'm going to give you the worst answer possible, but stay with me. It's highly contextual towards the individual, but there is science around lung capacity, more oxygen when you stand up. Here's why I say it's contextual. I was coaching a VP of sales when it comes to presentation training. And weirdly, when he was sitting down, he wouldn't have what Chris would say, the fight or flight response. It wasn't being triggered. He didn't see it as a rhino chasing him. The moment he stood up, it became formal and there would be brain fog. He couldn't get words out. So I would say, think about it with what is right for you, but make sure the decision isn't driven from fear. I personally, as you saw, preferred standing up before, but if I was standing up now and everybody else is sitting down, the energy between the room would just be weird. So it's all about, think about the scenario and are you making your decision out of fear or is it right for your audience? So a cop out, but it's really contextual.
Yeah, thank you. No, and you know, I would agree. As an early salesperson, I was told it was essential to be on your feet when speaking to someone. You know, like you said, lung capacity, you know, projecting your voice and all of those things. But actually, if you're more comfortable sat down, I can completely see that. Yeah. So thank you for that, Ravi. I don't think that was a cop out as such. I think it's an honest answer. So yeah, thank you. Okay, we've got some other questions here. Bear with me a second. I've got a slightly longer one from Tom. Tom, thank you very much. We are finding outbound and generally lead gen a challenge in a highly commoditized and saturated market. Do you guys have any tips on how you can drive meaningful outbound conversations? There's a caveat there saying, no, that's pretty broad. Industry is social media management, if that helps. But you know, can we give him any insight into how we can drive meaningful outbound conversations?
Sorry, do you want to go ahead, Ravi?
You go.
I think one thing that we've been doing a lot more of is going back and understanding where we've had contacts in the past. So I think, like you said, and like Dagmar has mentioned, you can do emails, calls, LinkedIn to brand new prospects. And, you know, it's what our teams are doing on a day-to-day. But if you actually look at some of the people that have been in your organization or within your industry for a very, very long time. So my VP, for example, been in the industry for many, many years and has got some really great contacts. Going back and, you know, going through his old contact list, going through his LinkedIn and understanding who he's connected to. So you're actually going to be having very relevant conversations, even if it's something you revisited before. Use that introduction and make use of what your team already have, because like you said, it is a difficult time. Everyone's at home. Everyone is in a similar position. So understand what you've got within the team, look amongst that, look at some of your VP's contacts and see if there's anything that you can use. We found it's been useful. So yeah, we've had some successes in that. So I'd say try it, see if it works.
Thank you, Loretta. Great advice. Over to you, Ravi.
I was just going to say a really quick tip, which I think it's sometimes overlooked, is take, for example, the sales confidence event. Now, if you're invited to it, you can't see the attendee list. But if you click accept, you get to see everybody else who is attending. So to take a cold conversation into warm, you need commonality. Suddenly, you've earned the right to reach out to Ben, Loretta, Chris, and say, hey, see you're attending the event, blah, 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 blah. It's way easier to start a conversation. And then you can hit them with a video, which allows more context on you. So you move and start nurturing people through the sales process unknowingly and in a way more seamless way. So you move somebody from warm to cold. Cold to warm even.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I've got just something to add on that actually as well. To Ravi's point about building that commonality, I think a lot of the time it's kind of a lack of patience where we'll go in and maybe try and connect with someone straight away on LinkedIn and send them a message. For me, like what's worked for me in the past and where I've seen people successful is like actually spending time and investing time in looking at your prospects' content and actually caring about it, not just going in and using it for the sake of dropping in a message, but engaging in it and building a relationship through the comment section, first of all, where they see that you're actually taking time out to invest in that, to find out. And then by warming up that conversation in the comments and responding to it, not just going great piece of advice here or couldn't agree more, but actually something meaningful. It's then more of a warmed up intro to want to connect to them and go, hey, Alex, been loving the content you've been sharing. Thought it'd be really good to connect with them. Then you can send them a voice note. I mean, me and Ravi did this the other day. After all, you sent me a video, Ravi, I sent you a voice note. And it's just like a good way to kind of build that relationship up and go against the grain of maybe what else they're getting amongst that kind of sea of noise right now.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
Alex, I'm just going to jump in with one point there as well. All really, really good points everyone shared, and mine actually touched in several different ways. So that the question was around outbound. And I'd say just take a step back, and it depends how your organization is set up and your lead gen within the organization, whether there's marketing, whether there's partnerships, if you work with BDRs, etc. I have the exact same problem in the company I'm working with right now. So I try to think about it differently and started to proactively form alliances with the big players to get higher up in the organization to start. Okay, so we're trying to book a meeting every time. We're going for it. But why don't you take a step back? Maybe you try to book them onto an event and follow up, which is some of the points been raised as well. But if you've got a really good marketing team, why not collaborate for your own internal event and try those low-hanging fruit? So what I would say is approach your prospecting in multiple different ways, in a multi-threaded way, and doing all of those activities to drive those goals and measure it. So it's not a quick win. It's not a quick answer, but everyone has this problem, particularly in those crowded markets. So that's some of the stuff I've seen others doing, and I think touched on many of the points actually shared across the panel.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. I think that point brought a lot of it together, as you said, Ben. I think something that I take from it is how easily building that common ground can be, and having that sort of personal touch to your outreach. I mean, Ravi mentioned it, and Chris touched on it as well. You know, it doesn't have to be hours worth of research on each prospect, and you know, you don't need to know the mother's maiden name, but there's some really easy ways that you can engage with people and sort of generate that common ground. And Ben, I couldn't agree more with your comment. Dagmar has asked us a question that leads on very nicely from Tom's a second ago. In a very saturated market, we are looking for alternate ways to drive conversations, and that's on top of emails, calls, LinkedIn, video prospecting. Any ideas? So I think Dagmar is looking for some channels that we can use to cut through the noise that are outside of emails, calls, LinkedIn, and video prospecting.
I would actually, there's a cool tool called Scribeless. And somebody's gone. Oh, there we are. Scribeless. Now, I like sometimes thinking about things old school, where everybody's like, oh, this doesn't work, but everybody's doing what Dagmar has just said. So if you take it back to handwritten letters, when was the last time you received a handwritten letter from a prospect? You know what I mean? If I'm getting that, I'm opening it. And there's a cool company called Scribeless, where you type in the text, they send it on your behalf, and it's pretty cost effective. I've tried it, and it's a nice touch. So that's one thing which I think is a bit old school, but it's kind of like new school now as well.
I couldn't agree more. Just out of interest, you use Scribeless. Did you get the meeting?
We used it, and I don't think we got a response. We didn't get the meeting.
There we go.
We didn't get the meeting, but I still think we should have done it more.
Yeah, there we go.
Way more, because it's like, hold on, this is like nobody's doing it. We're all thinking about LinkedIn video, which is cool, but that's what everyone's doing.
I would add that, and naturally I'm an advocate for it, but I feel like, especially at rep level, you don't always get the marketing resources that you want. Pulling together your own small webinar with your top prospects, inviting an existing customer that you sold to, like your own mini events that you can control, like they're so powerful. Don't wait around for marketing to organize the event next quarter that you eventually get someone to. Like, you know, the other thing is like doing shared demos. This is quite difficult sometimes to pull off, but if you can get one of your friendly customers that you've closed, get them to go and demonstrate their use case, explain that, look, we want to give you a bit of airtime because you've been a great customer. I'd love for you to share. And then like literally just go through all your prospects for the last quarter that haven't really engaged and say, look, we're going to show you how one of our existing customers is using this. And I'm always a big believer that just throwing the party, i.e. the fact that something exists, even if they can't make it or won't be there, is another different touch point. Versus some of those others. So that's what I just wanted to bring in. I'm just going to start wrapping this up for the networking. So is there any more responses before we wrap that up?
I think just to add to your point, James, which I think you do really well with sales confidence, is you're keeping the timings really succinct. So those kind of events, we've looked at putting those type of webinars together and just having them for 20 minutes and just having them very specific on a topic, so that it's a case of, one, it's very specific, so that if they are interested in that topic, it's only 20 minutes out of their day. And two, if there is a recording, it's only 20 minutes. You can even, scan through that and find specific discussion points that you want to go through. I think having someone invest in an hour session, that is a bit more of an investment, but 20 minutes, more likely to give it a shot. So yeah, just to add that.
Awesome. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. Thank you for those of you that have been on this sales confidence for the first time. There's a huge amount of value here that we're going to share the recording within 24/7, so you can share with your colleagues. Thank you for Jonathon and Ben, who we had to make way for. Great contributions, and also Loretta, Ravi, and Chris. And thank you for co-hosting today, Alex. There will be 10 minutes of networking if you hang around. We are going to be bringing back these physically, depending on how the world moves, but hopefully September time. We'll just have to wait and see. And look, if it's sooner, I'm just going to pull together a massive summer party. So, as soon as we can, I'm doing something big. And it will be a super spreader event. That was a joke. Obviously, a spreader of joy, not anything else, COVID or other related. So I just want to thank all the speakers. Thanks for our sponsors, Sales Loft, Varicent. We had Loretta representing today, Aircool, Venetrix, Mindtickle, Cognism, Salesworks, and also the very good friends at Refract, Allego. And I'm sure I missed someone, but I want to say thanks to Chris Hatfield at Psyche. Please do get in touch with Chris. Let him know that you heard about him at the Sales Confidence event. I feel like everybody should be introducing Chris into your business, as well as Ravi. Everybody get the book, and I'm sure the speakers will hang around for networking. But thanks, everyone, for getting involved today. It's been a really valuable session.